Welcome everybody to Clearwater Jazz Holiday Foundation's Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions. It is Friday, August 28th, and we are delighted to have Wycliffe Gordon joining us as part of our outreach today, and our dear friend and lead education partner, Mr. Frank Williams. If you've been following along with these sessions, we appreciate that very much and appreciate those that are helping to support and expand the reach of Clearwater Jazz Holiday Education and Outreach. My name is Steve Weinberger. I'm the CEO of the Clearwater Jazz Holiday Foundation, and I'm very pleased to introduce our lead education partner, Frank Williams. Frank has been an educator for over 40 years and instrumental to the development of what we do during the year outside of the big festival. We have developed many programs that we're proud of, including the History of Jazz Education Outreach program, the My Journey with Jazz program, our Young Lions Jazz Master Sessions, and many more. It's been a challenging year, but with some innovation, we've created some wonderful resources that are helping to expand the reach, including these virtual sessions. If you're new to them, please check out clearwaterjazz.com and the Education and Outreach page. Click on the studio and you'll find all of the past recorded sessions archived and organized by instrument. And you'll also see a link to a podcast that we call the Young Lions Jazz Master Virtual Sessions podcast. So if you don't like watching and you like listening, that's your thing, well, we do that too. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the chair over to Frank Williams to give a proper introduction of our guest today. Just so honored to have Mr. Wycliffe Gordon with us. Frank, take it away.
All right now, how's everybody doing? I know you can't be heard, but you can just yell it from wherever you are. Listen, I'm going to start out by reading this because it's just so impressive, and I love reading impressive stuff about great people. Jazz Journalists Association named him the 2020 Trombonist of the Year for the record-breaking 13th time in a row. He's also topped Downbeat Critics' role for Best Trombone for an unprecedented 6 times since 2012. Last year alone, he was recipient of the Louis Armstrong Award, the International Trombone Award, and the Saxophone Award, among many others. Oh yeah, this is a bad cat now. Wycliffe is a prolific recording artist and extremely popular for his great sound, his plunger technique, his vocals, and that personality, man. That's not in this bio, but that personality just wins people over. He's just a great human being. He can be heard on hundreds of recordings, soundtracks, DVDs, documentaries, you name it, he is there. He has a great solo career, played with ensembles, one of the original members of the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra, and Wynton Marsalis Septet back in the day, in the 90s, I believe. And he's also a great composer, writing for jazz ensembles, jazz combos, chamber orchestras, and every other sort of ensemble there is, including movie soundtracks. And he even arranged PBS's theme song. Oh yeah, every time you listen to a PBS broadcast, you're hearing Mr. Wycliffe Gordon. I can go on and on and on and on and on because he is one of the signature bad cats on this planet. But I want you all to meet and greet him. I want you to get a chance to learn from him. And so I am going to just say, Wycliffe, how you doing, bro?
No, I'm doing good, Mr. Frank.
All right, man.
I appreciate it. You had the whole mute thing, how you lock the windows in the car. You had me locked up over there, and I was trying to answer you. But I'm doing great, doing just fine, wonderful. It's a nice day outside. And even though we're dealing with these crazy times, you know how it is with jazz musicians and creative people. We always try to find the upside. So right now, I woke up on the upside, and I'm feeling pretty good today.
Yeah. Look here. One thing for sure. This time in America is a good time to play the blues, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
We can play some low-down dirty blues right now.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, you know, the way I want to start this thing, before we get into all the technical things, I would like to go through your daily training and go through the sing it, play it routine that we shared with the, all the things you are and all that. Anything else you want to do, but I always like to put the humanity first. You know, cats can listen to your recordings and read all the accolades and all that, but I want people to know the human being because, you know, we've known each other for a very, very long time.
Yes,
And every time I see you, man, I just light up and smile no matter what the situation is because you're just one of those beautiful cats.
Oh, wow.
I was wondering if you would be so kind as to just kind of share your journey. I know you started playing somewhere around 12, but if you share the journey, the things that were pivotal in getting you to the place you are along the way, maybe some of the people along the way, places, whatever, that might be instructive for many of the people who are checking this thing out.
Okay, I'll give a brief rundown. I was born in Waynesboro, Georgia, but my first experience with music came from my father, who played and studied classical piano. We had a reel-to-reel on his upright grand piano, and we'd hear Beethoven, Mozart, Schumann, and Schubert, all classical piano music at home. And he put speakers in the rooms that he wired from his reel-to-reel, and that's what we heard in the house. Outside of the house, we'd attend church. So he was the pianist and organist in several churches in that small town that I was born in. And, you know, that was my introduction to music. Outside of that, we maybe heard country music on the radio, or we had a record player and we listened to Mahalia Jackson and gospel. That was about it. And it wasn't until I turned about 12 years old, and my older brother, Lucius, who went to junior high school, and during that time you could have up to 3 electives, but every kid had to have a PE, physical education, as mandated by the American Council on Physical Fitness and Sports. Well, anyway, you know, you had workshop, you had wood shop, you had auto shop, you had things like, you know, home economics, and then there was band. My brother decided he wanted to be in the band, and he wanted to play trumpet like all the other little boys, but band director, I don't know if it's politically incorrect, he said, you know, you have some nice, you know, sized lips, you'd probably be a better trombone. So that was my introduction to the trombone. Parents got him one, and I was in the 7th grade, and we're a year apart, so whenever he got something I wanted, that could be a dump truck, a popsicle, ice cream, you know, bubble gum. I came home one day from school and I said, oh, wow, I want one. Now, I had not played in a band before, but the first time I heard a band was in 1st grade. Army band came to our school. They played, they demonstrated each instrument. Saxophone played, I was like, cool. Trombone played, I was like, Trumpet played, I was like, well, that's the sound that blew down the walls of Jericho. The piano, I heard that all my life. The bass was playing electric bass. I was like, man, that's kind of cool. And then the drummer started playing. Boom, shot. I heard the high, the low, and then the rhythm. And I was like, that's it, I want to play drums. I came home, I said, I want some drums. And for the rest of the years I lived at home, my mom and my dad said, absolutely not. I put the drums in this house. But my brother came home with an instrument, and I wanted one because he had one. And I begged and begged till they got me a trombone. Then I went to junior high school with him. played in the band, the beginning band at first, then then there was concert band, there was marching band, and there was a jazz band, or when we was in high school, we called it stage band. And we didn't have much exposure to jazz, but throughout the high school years, what we heard as jazz for us was do do do.
Oh yeah, I know. In the mood and stuff.
Yeah. So it was like, but when my great aunt passed, her record player and her record collection wound up at our house. And that was the first time, I think I was 13, 14 years old, I heard jazz on a recording. And it was an anthology of jazz, everything from the early slave chants to modern jazz at that time. And I fell in love with the music, particularly of New Orleans. And then Louis Armstrong. And that's where the birth of my interest in jazz began.
All right.
My buddies used to say, we all like jazz, but Cliff like that deep jazz.
That's right.
Deep jazz. So, I mean,
that real jazz.
Yeah, and then, and that's kind of where it started for me. And I continued on through high school and college, where I learned from talking with Mr. Williams here. We have a lot in common. He's a trombone player in the trombone section at Florida A&M.
That's right.
And even though he was just 2 or 3 years before I got there, maybe 4 or 5.
A few more than 2 or 3. A couple of decades, maybe.
We had some of the same experiences with dealing with and our interest in playing jazz, but it was there.
That's right.
During my sophomore year that I met Wynton Marsalis, and I was really checking out Louis Armstrong, so I knew who he was. But a friend of mine, Scotty Barnhart, knew him, and I got a chance to meet him. We got a chance to play for him, and I'm kind of running through the story because we only have so much time.
That's right.
And I don't want to talk the whole time, but met him, and one thing kind of led to another, and he had his pianist Marcus Roberts call me about a year later and asked what I was doing, and went to the Caravan of Dreams where I was completely unprepared. As you remember, I was in college, and even though I was in the band, I was still in college, and I was playing electric bass in the funk band, and during that time, School Days Movie and a song called Doing the Butt was popular. So I wasn't really dealing with the trombone all that, much. I did what I had to do in school. But after that week with Wynton in Texas, I was a good kick. Like, you going to play jazz, you need to get down on it.
That's right.
So, and then I got a call about 8 months later to play Blues Alley in Washington, D.C. And what little did I know, Wynton was trying me out at that time to see if I was ready to play with the band. After leaving Texas, I kind of got some things together. Still not making a whole lot of noise, but he then asked me if I wanted to record on the record. That was 1988. We recorded that record, Crescent City Christmas Card, between February and March of 1989. He said, what do you do during the summers? I said, I go home and do construction work. I'm on a full scholarship, but it doesn't cover summer school. He said, well, do you want to come out and play? I was like, well, yeah, sure. He said, call me when you get out of school. I did that on my birthday. He said, well, call my manager. It's May 29th, 1989. Call my manager and he'll hook things up. And he flew me. I met them June 6th at the Spoleto Festival in Charleston, South Carolina. My first summer gig, in that temporary gig, 4 or 5 days later, because of a question that he asked me, it became everything that led to where I am in my career now. And that conversation was with Eric Reed, who was filling in for Marcus Roberts at the time. So I'm not happy with the school I'm going to. Where should I go to school? Wynton said, I don't know. I went to college. I was dating at Juilliard for 1 year and went on the road with Art Blakey. Talked to Wycliffe. And then I said, well, I'm not sure. He's a piano player. What about where to go? But I said, at that time I was considering transferring from Florida A&M to the University of New Orleans because Wynton's dad had moved there to teach. And I really wanted to get hands-on. I always wanted to go to New Orleans, and this would be a chance to get some hands-on jazz where they were really doing jazz. I mean, we had a jazz band at FAMU, but as you all know, we were well known for the marching band, and that
Oh yeah.
we did that. I did that, but I wanted to get more of a jazz education. And went and then said, he said, well, if you think about transferring schools, do you want to stay out here and play for a while? And I thought about it for all of 10 seconds. I said, yeah. Knowing I could go back to school, and, I'm thinking about my band director. He said, get your degree. And I said, well, God, this is what I want to do. And that opportunity opened up one opportunity after the other, playing with the septet led to playing with the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra. And even when I left the band, it created opportunities for me to teach, even without having a degree, but based on my professional experience.
That's right.
At major universities and conservatories. And, and I always wanted to be, I wanted to do the things I wanted, that I was inspired to do. I like to play, but I also like to write and compose. And I think I have to say one last thing before I turn it back over to Mr. Williams. I'll go back to my high school band director. I was with my junior high director for 1 year, but my high school band director, Mr. Butler, I was with him from grade 9 to 12. And Mr. Butler always used to tell me whether I'm trying for the all-county band, the district band, all-state, even the McDonald's All-American High School band. He said, you can do it, Cliff. And I don't think he knew what he did, but because he said that, I never thought there was anything I couldn't do. So I said, I'll try. So I owe a huge debt of gratitude to my high school band director, who just kind of said, in his own words, you can do it, Cliff. He never told me I was better than anybody. He just said, you can do it. And I'm like, well, I probably can do it. So, thanks. Many kudos, rest his soul, but to my high school band director, Mr. Harkness Butler, who was there during that time. Yeah. And those formative years leading into what became my career.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful. I hope everybody takes something from that. I've got a couple of things that's funny, a couple of things that make me laugh really loud. I signed up for band and I wanted to play the trumpet or the saxophone or drums. And the band director took my sheet and he got me scheduled for band. And that first day he said, come here, son, open your mouth. He said, yep. He said, you got some mighty straight teeth. He said, I think you're going to play the trombone. I said, man, what's the trombone? He said, right? Go down there to the store and tell the man you want a trombone. I said, okay. And that was the beginning of my love-hate relationship with the trombone for a while. And I finally grew to love it. But my high school band was a trombone player who also played in the FAMU Collegians with Cannonball and those guys back in those days. So I was following, I was on the trail, so to speak. And of course, you all know we have Dr. Foster and Prof. Bing in common, both of us. But I remember meeting you in Tampa at the USF Jazz Fest when FAMU had a combo with you, Scotty, Herb, my son, Frank, I forget who's playing bass, the guy from out in Kansas City, I believe.
Yeah, James Ward, Dad, we call him Dad.
Yeah, James Ward, and the piano player. Who was that piano player? He was bad.
Who played piano with us during that time? I'm trying to think.
It was Red or somebody?
Yeah, you know how we were at FAMU. People had band names like
This was a white cat. I think he went to Florida State.
Oh, okay. I can't think of his name right now. I see his face.
Played with all those Hombres Calientes and all those groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can. Maybe I'll look it up on the internet.
Yeah. Anyway, I remember hearing you there because they had a jam session. Mm-hmm. And that guy Mark was there playing, and you were playing, and I was playing. And I'm like, man, this cat here, he gonna be bad. I better pull out some of my tricks, or he gonna make me look real sad up here. And I can't stand being made look sad by no young cat. No. But I had my eye on you from that moment, and you have, I'm telling you, you have eclipsed every dream I ever could have had about what you can do with that horn and what you've done with your career and your life, man. You know, it's just beautiful to see that journey, which is why I wanted you to share your story with the group we have in this room at this time. I want to turn, if you don't mind, to something more technical. We talked about the horn, and although we're trombone players, a daily routine is a daily routine. And pretty much 85, 90% of what we do on the horn is about the same thing a trumpet player would do or a sax player would do or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if you
Yes,
don't
sir.
mind, just kind of let's talk through that a little bit. And I want to talk about what and why, you know. And I remember the very first thing that you have on that list are scales. So before we get into the scales, I want to ask you about sustains, long tones, breathing, that kind of thing. How do you approach that sort of training?
Yeah, well, yeah, sure. Well, all of those things are important, and I've gotten to a point to where I don't really do long tones anymore, but I did all of those things.
All right.
You will probably get into this later, because sometimes you run into folks in our profession that will say what not to do,
Right.
and my mom and my parents used to tell me what not to do. They said, "Don't put your hand on that stove when the thing red is hot." But I was that kid that had to find out for
Yeah,
myself.
yeah, yeah.
And I was like, well, yeah, she wasn't lying. That is hot.
Yeah.
However, when it comes to music, I try to encourage students to use every bit of information to their advantage. And if they come to the conclusion to not do something, then let it be because it didn't work for them. See, my body shape is different than yours. The shape of my teeth, what affects how I play, my mouthpiece, and all of those things make a big difference. But something like long tones is something that can get you started. It's like warming up a car. And you want to do that. I don't do it anymore, and I tell students all the time. I do a master class. I got some bad habits, but I've been doing this for a while, and I did long tones and lip flexibility exercises for years. And it's important to understand that everything that you're about to ask me, from long tones to those other exercises that I would do, is all pedagogical. A lot of times I hear people say, "Oh, I don't want to practice. I don't want to warm up because I don't want it to mess up my technique." As it pertains to singing or even playing an instrument, I want to do my natural thing. Well, you can't play jazz trombone if you can't play trombone.
There you
So,
go.
or your instrument, you have to work out on your instrument and warming up. Just like warming up a car, you want to get that car to run. You don't have to leave it. You don't have to leave it running for long, but you got to warm it up before you put it in gear to get going. That's what long tones and flexibility exercises are, and it's also a good way to help develop your sound.
Yeah.
Your breathing is the most important thing that you're going to have. So, in long tones is also a good resource to work on your breathing and your breath control. Breath speed. And again, like I said, wow, and I don't do them that much anymore. I know how to play now, where I can incorporate what I get from long tones. But a young player should start out with long tones, like learning my first note in first position, of course. But then my second position I learned was E flat, because if you're a trombone player, the E flat is marked right there by that bell or somewhere close.
That's right.
So, and I can play the note longer than that, but we don't have time.
I got you.
Master class, but you want to develop a tone, and we trombone players, we have what I like to call our home positions. That's wonderful. We don't want to go out too. We don't want to go on out there, and it's deep water out there. But you want to master the trombone, you got to go ahead and get in the deep water. But
That's what you do.
position 1 through 7, and I would do those long tones coupled with flexibility exercises.
Got it.
But they're very invaluable. It's your first approach to establishing the sound on the horn, and if you can do that, okay, you're ready to switch gears.
Got it. Got it. You know, one of the things I really enjoyed was you said in your level 1 training, all major scales, period. With our PJs, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I say that. Yeah, I ask students this all the time. I mean to cut you off. You know all your letters in the alphabet, of course. And I said, well, yeah. Imagine you say you got 12 major scales. And I just talk about the major scales. I didn't really get into minor, the 3 different ways you play minor scales. But I figured if you put a student on the path, they're gonna go and get that other information.
Got it.
So if you don't know all your major scales, that's the equivalent to not knowing all the letters in the alphabet.
Oh.
Now you might be able to work something out, but you're gonna have a hard time reading and writing if you only know if you only know A through J. You need to get K through Z. So that's the same thing with your scales. They all sound the same. Mm-hmm. So learn all your skills, and I was, curious enough to kind of do that in high school. It's like you have to know so many skills to audition for All State. You got to play these. I said, what are the other ones?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and learn those too. So if you learn them, then that helps when it comes to everything from reading, sight reading. You know, you don't have to think, well, A has 3 sharp. Let's see, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. No, you practice something like scales or anything that you're learning on a horn. Students say it's hard to play in that key. No, you're just unfamiliar with that key.
That's right.
Why is it so easy to play in B flat? Because most bands in America, they learn the first scale they learn, the B flat concert scale. It's home.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So
that's right. That's right.
It's important. It doesn't take that long to learn. Learn 1 octave, and as your car get to running good, you get on the highway, you're gonna be riding for a while. Go ahead for the second octave, So those scales and arpeggios, and also learn trombone players to use the alternate position. Say if I'm playing the E flat scale, I'm gonna try to point my horn towards you.
Yeah, use that 4.
Fourth position. Yes, sir. D flat, where you have F. If you have a trick on your horn, that's fine. But I encourage the people with F attachments to play the whole.
That's right.
Position 1 through 7, because you can get lazy. Like I told you, in the home position, the 1 through 4. Yeah, we might want to go to 5 every now and then, but we kind of want to stay home. But the trombone, that's why I say it's a monster.
Yeah.
Now, I play all the brass instruments, but when your range of motion is from here to here, that's a lot of area to cover.
That's right.
Trombone expert, so I know he knows what I'm talking about.
That's right, exactly. And what I like about the extended position is you can see exactly how long that slide is. You can see exactly how far you got to push that air. And so you start compensating a little bit better for the length of the tubing, whereas on valve instruments, it's not quite that obvious. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're
right. It's something that we deal with physically. We just have to, reach. And you want to learn those alternate positions. So if you're playing, for fast passages, for phrasing, like if you're trying to play fast, playing with velocity is just, some people say technique, but it's just one technique. But if you're going, I'm still playing the scale, but if I put the D in 4th position, watch it. Can you imagine? You can do that, but it doesn't make sense. On the trombone, you want to make the trombone, you want to play the trombone efficiently. So learning the alternate positions and all of those things are important. My bad. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, bro, we fine. Listen, I was just going to say one thing. You're talking about why is it people are so comfortable with the B flat scale. I had a friend a long time ago named Bill Mayer. He was the principal oboist in Chicago for many, many years. And when he lived in St. Pete back in the 80s, before he finally passed away, he taught most of the oboe players. And he invited me to his home to talk to me about his approach to teaching. And he says, Frank, you know, the first scale I teach my beginners? I say, no, what's that? He says, G flat major. I said, what? I said, on the oboe, all those side keys and whatnot? He says, oh, yeah. He says, I teach that to them first. He says, because they're beginners. They don't know any difference. They think that that's the way it's supposed to go. But if I can get them to play the G flat major scale efficiently as a beginner, the A flat and the A and the B flat and the E flat and all the band keys are nothing to them. And I went, whoa. He said, so one of the things that musicians should do is practice in the keys they rarely play in. Start with G flat and move into the outback with that, and make those easier keys the very last ones you do, so that you have more, how should you say that, a level playing field of all keys. And I always thought that that was a fairly ingenious approach to doing it. You know what I mean?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you're a beginner, you don't know what's hard.
Yeah.
You don't know what's, it's all hard.
Yeah.
People talk about, well, Mac is more user friendly. I'm like, I don't know how to use either one of them. It's whichever one I start on, it's gonna be equal footing.
That's right.
But same thing with the scale. That was a great story.
Yeah.
And a great approach.
Yeah, it's a great approach. In flexibilities, which is a part of your level one, I noticed that you did what we call air slurs, lip slurs, if you will, but then you went into legato and staccato tonguing with similar exercises, whether they be linear or a fundamental in the overtone series. And I would appreciate if you might discuss that approach a little bit, because a lot of people only do air and lip slurs and never articulate through those.
Well, see, okay, thanks for asking that question. What I found was sometimes when I'm playing, I'd always have a trouble even when I was playing with Winton. To play this A flat, it would be like this. I'd have to slide into it. Most of the time I go to hit the note, I wouldn't go. I was like, I'd have to slide into it. And I'm like, why is that? Well, I was doing my slurs that way. When you have the air moving, you can sometimes squeeze up to the note.
Yeah.
You can squeeze up to the note, but when you're using your tongue, I'm gonna skip over the legato tongue. Legato is there. You have all air, you have staccato, and legato is in the middle. Go to the staccato tongue. If you can play that same exercise and hit all the notes accurately, then it's an approach to the three ways that we articulate. Using no tongue or a soft tongue, or what I call legato, da 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 da, or staccato, top 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 top. So instead of going, or in addition to going, so I'd say let's play it staccato, and I'm just playing it fast. I learned a long time ago you have to do these things slow. Real mastery of it means that you can do them at any tempo, but to play fast, sometimes we overcompensate. It's just like playing a slow tune with the big band. When you play a slow tune, they sound easier. They're much harder because all of your attacks, releases, dynamics, and all of that are exposed. Same thing with these slur exercises. So sometimes we'll do like this.
I got it.
We'll weaken it, no, tongue all the way through the exercise. And even if you miss the note, you want to play it slower and just do it the way you can, where you can go la, and then staccato tongue. And
Yeah.
I would suggest that whatever slur exercise you're doing, go through your slur regimen, doing everything the same way, so you're not getting it mixed up too much. And if you don't have time, that regiment, and I chose 2 different types of slurs. You got Schlossberg, there's 110, hundreds of slurs. If you master 2 different kinds, you can play any. One where you're dealing with the intervals, where you start with small intervals. That's a minor third, position 1, down to 7. And I would also try to concentrate on my breathing. And again, I'm playing fast. I say play it slow. When you can play it slow and with control, it does wonders for you. Minor third, major third. Fourth, same thing all the way down and back up. Fifth, all the way down and back up. And then I stop on the sheet that I sent you, and I still owe you some more, by the way, and I'll try to do it as soon as I get off.
All right.
Because I want everybody that may want it to have it. But the 6th, where you start to skip partials, you want to pay particular attention when you're doing the interval slurs, where you have the same amount of control and not do this. So just when you play, you wanted to sing just those 2 notes. So when you get to the 6th, the interval of a 6 between the D and the F.
Yeah. Right.
You don't want to get the body,
Right, got it.
You want to have that same amount of control. So it's important also to practice everything with a metronome and do it slow enough, not fast. Do it slow enough where you can control it. And whatever your most difficult interval is, play everything at that interval. So rather than getting the ones where you're familiar, you play fast to it and then slow down for the others, play everything at that tempo, and I think it will help you to lock in on what you're doing where you're comfortable, and it'll help you to learn that much more rapidly. Yes. So that's interval slur. Then the one I just did earlier was a linear slur.
Yes.
And then the other one I put in on there is an exercise that this trombonist Marstello would play from that book. What's the name of the book, Mr. Frank?
It's called Practice with Experts.
Yeah, practice with the expert. Who better to practice with than the experts? Yep. And that one is a combination of the 2. Yep. You're skipping over partials and playing triads.
Yep. Yes, sir, buddy.
So it's not only exercise, but I would do the half steps, whole steps. Oops, sorry, I missed a note, but you see what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Then there's an extension of that exercise. I kind of cheated a little bit, but y'all hear that? So
No, you don't hear
it on air.
I got it.
But when you have to play that one staccato,
Yeah.
you see it's about 3 or 4 notes.
Yeah.
Well, that means I need to play it slower to the control that I had before. But that's the whole point behind, because you can always squeeze.
Yeah.
You can't squeeze, but when you go dot, you got to be right. You got to be right centered.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I say do your slur exercises that way.
The thing is, you can cheat a little bit when you're doing the slurs, the air slurs, the lip slurs. But when you're picking those staccatos, you better be in the center of that note every time, or you're gonna miss it totally.
That's it. Right on the target.
You better be right there.
And that's why I say that. Matter of fact, and that was the thing that helped me be able to play. Just to play that note.
Yeah.
And once I did that, and only after like 2 weeks, I was like, wow, I wish I'd have been doing this all the time, but I continued to do it. So
Yeah. That's beautiful stuff, man. That's just beautiful stuff. I noticed that even when you're doing your slurs, you will combine slurs with a glissando for moving from position to position so that you can keep the airflow going. I have noticed that you are probably more determined about airflow than anyone I have encountered in a very long time.
yes, sir. Airflow is the most important thing that you have in your trombone, trumpet, oboe, your whole life, because when the air stops, nothing else matters. And now I'll give an example. When you get control of your breathing, you can control every aspect of your playing, from tonguing.
You know,
the air. So that's the same thing with range. Sometimes we get caught up with, biting down. Range is really about air control. That note, so I'm gonna play the A flat concert scale and show you how air is more control of the horn than it is of itself if you have control of your breathing. So I'll play it in the upper register. Yeah. I'm gonna play it in one position. Third.
Exactly.
It's kind of difficult, but then playing it in second. So A flat is not in second position, but I'm being silly right now.
I know.
That's
all right.
If you have control of your breathing, then you can really master the horn. But the breathing is I think the single most important thing to develop. And you can work on your breathing while you're working on the flexibility exercises.
Exactly.
I didn't say this. What I would try to do is I'd combine exercises sometimes. So from position 1 to 7 and back up, I always try to do it in one breath. Now, some of that at a certain tempo will be very, very difficult. But if it takes you 3 breaths, now work on doing it in 2. If it takes you 4, work on doing it in 3. Use a metronome all the time, because the metronome is not going to lie. You'll just speed it up and say, I did it. No, you didn't do it. You did it, but you just sped it up. That metronome, kick, ain't going nowhere.
That's right.
I used to wear my students out with that metronome. They said, you got to, I had a metronome for the whole lesson. I said, did you practice with the metronome? He said, yeah. I said, well, take it out. He said, oh, something wrong with it. I said, open the battery compartment. No battery in there. I said, I tell you what, click. I said, go ahead. I leave the metronome on the whole time. Can you turn that off? I said, no, it's mine. You didn't use yours. We're going to use mine today.
That's
so,
right.
All right. Anyway, I got off track.
Yeah. It's amazing. I used to have this kid tell me that metronome driving me crazy. I say, no, man, you driving that metronome crazy with your bad time. Boy, this is just beautiful, and you're scaring the devil out of a whole lot of these trombone players. When you were playing in the upper range and whatnot, 2 things came to mind. Number one, in that particular range of the horn, I always say that positions are not necessary. They just make it easier to play it in tune, but they're not necessary up there. You can play it in any position you want to. That's the first thing. It's all about the air and the ear, of course. That has to be there. The other thing is, when you're playing in that register with that kind of control, back in the days when I was marching in 100, they would call you a Jekyll.
Oh, really?
Jekyll.
Uh-huh.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they call you a Jekyll, mad doctor. They will call you a Jekyll.
Oh yeah.
Because you.
All right, that's a compliment there. Okay.
Yeah, it's a great compliment. Anytime a guy was called a Jekyll, that means he was a supreme player of the highest level. That's the old 100 connotation. You know what I mean? Yeah, you know. When it was all male and wasn't nobody cutting any corners about anything. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. I heard about y'all.
Yeah, but look, you also reference some stuff in the Arbin method books, some gruppettos and things like that, and we don't have to get into very specifics, but just the mere mention of the Arbin and method books and that kind of things, how shall I say this? There are a lot of players who try to avoid that level of discipline in their training, and I wonder if you could speak to that.
Nah, there's no way around it. You know, it's like not learning the scales. A simple way to say it. You don't know all your scales. Well, why not? They all sound the same. A major scale is a major scale all day long. Learn all of them. You know, and I have students sometimes that wants to do what they consider to be the hippest thing. I said, okay, well, you know this tune. Matter of fact, I asked a kid yesterday, what's your favorite tune? I'm teaching a jazz improv class. Yeah. And what I'm going to do, their favorite song, whether it's a jazz song or not, it's jazz improv. We're going to work on blues, ballads, 32-bar song. He picks Giant Steps. I say, you know Giant Steps? He said, yeah, I'm working on it. I said, well, your favorite tune, you're probably not working on it. I'm not talking about what you're working on. But anyway, it's like you can't, even when it comes to learning tunes, well, how well do you know it? And I remember I was teaching at Juilliard. I said, how many of y'all know all the things you are? Me. And they got to play, you know, blazing. I said, let's move it up a half step. And they're like, oop, trip.
Exactly.
Like, you don't really know it. So if you're going to play jazz trombone, classical trombone, funk trombone, you first get to understand that there's a word in front of that called, or that comes after anything you put before it, It's called trombone.
That's
You have
right.
to learn how to master playing the trombone, and that's what that pedagogical stuff is for. You
That's
know,
right.
when I started playing with Wynton, they played circle drum. You know what I had to work on? It wasn't learning those tunes. I had to go back to doing the clock technical exercise. Those things is on that sheet. I did that for a couple of years, and it would take me about 2.5 hours
That's
to
right.
get through it done right. And sometimes he had to remind me, "Hey, you're trying to get it too fast. I'm out there on the road. I want to catch up with him." There's no shortcut. I have students that there's no shortcut. The shortcut to learning how to do something on an instrument is the straightest line between where you standing and the practice room. And you know, once you get to it, and you know, I mean, once you get it, you don't have to learn it anymore. I tell students, you walk. You know, you didn't know how to walk. You had to wait, stand up, you may not remember it because you were a child, but if you've seen children, then they take a step, then they take 2 steps. And then they get to where they can start trotting and running, might fall down every now and then. But then when they really got it, now they got their own cool walk. Yeah, you got to think, they don't think about walking, and that is what that pedagogy is for. You work on those interval exercises to master playing intervals, you know. I don't know why I just felt like playing that. That had nothing to do with intervals, but that pedagogy, the melodious etudes.
That's right.
I try to get. They come from what? That vocalese from singing.
That's
so
right.
You develop a song style of playing trombone, and I didn't know it even when I was in college. But I have my students do this all the time now. Sing it. Sing the etude. So you're not thinking, you know, even when you're learning jazz solos, try to sing it first, because you're thinking about keys and you're gonna make a mathematical formula out of it. Is good to know that, but we as human beings, we naturally hear music and certain harmonic progressions in music, whether you went to church, whether it's ingrained. I think it's just ingrained in all of us, regardless of where we're from, that a certain harmonic motion, we feel that. Like even in church, at the end of the church service, the plagal cadence, the 4 chords and the 1 chord. Ah, man, it's like, you hear that growing up, you didn't know it's called a plagal cadence. And a lot of times I find that a lot of times, even with musicians, we already know that we just haven't connected to them yet. So if you can, like the melodious etudes, if you can sing the etudes, that means that you can hear it. If you sing it accurately and in tune, that means you've internalized it. That's anything from melody or rhythm. And if you do that, then you can train yourself to play it. Yeah. I know we were talking about pedagogy, and I kind of went off on a tangent, but it's all...
No, man, it's all connected. It's all connected. I have one more thing I want to cover, and you've already kind of built a bridge to it, and that's sing it, play it approach to improvisation. And I know how you like to treat the melody first, and this is something a lot of young players don't deal with. And then I noticed that you had all of the harmonic structures diagrammed out, root, third, fifth, seventh for every chord, and you have them learn to sing all the roots and sing the melody over that, and then play the harmony, all of that. If you would just give a kind of a bird's eye view of that approach and why.
Yes, sir. If you can sing something, I mean, think about it. How did we learn how to talk? We didn't read how to pronounce words. You imitated somebody. So in jazz, we kind of call that transcription. Even though what I used to do when I was younger was on the horn first. But it's like learning the words to a pop song. You can listen to it all day long, but you don't know that you know the words till they actually come out of your mouth. So rather than taking a tune like All the Things You Are, which is what I sent to Mr. Frank,
yes,
to share with anybody that may want it. It has the melody, it has the chord changes, it has the lyrics. And I'm a stickler about melodies, because embellishing the melody is cool, but what's really hip, just to learn the melody.
Yes.
You know, you can put all that stuff around. I'm like, but that's not the melody in the song. And see, a lot of times people think that head cutting back in the day in jam sessions was all about playing fast. That's one. That's one, playing fast, high, and all of that. But how you played a ballad, that would be one thing that would separate men from the boys and women from the girls, as they say. You know how that saying goes. And it's like, well, you learn the melody. So I find that it's important to sing. When I was younger, I said, man, I'm a trombone player, and I can listen to the trumpet plot. I can learn most of the melodies. I'm not going to sing. Singing has been the single most important thing in my development, even after becoming a professional musician, because I find that if I can sing something, it helps me to work on my phrasing and my breathing. Everything that you need to do, put it in the horn. Horn is just an extension of your voice. I used to hear that when I first started out. Now I know what it means because I practically apply that to everything that I do.
You know,
what Mr. Frank was talking about with all the things you are.
Oh yeah.
I created this 12-step program and I put it in the form of a recipe.
Yep.
A friend of mine, Ken Amos, tuba player, did a brass cookbook years ago, and he had brass players talking about mouthpieces, breathing techniques, and all of those things. I figured I was probably one of it, or if not the only jazz musician. In the book, I said, so I'm going to create something that I've been able to use with classically trained musicians, which is, I don't really like those terms. There's musicians and there's musicians. You play music. But they say, I don't improvise. And I said, well, they want to take these concepts. It's 12 steps, and the 12th step is just repeating 1 through 11. But it's 3 main steps. Learn the melody. Da 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 da. It's a 36-bar tune. Everything we do is in the first 8 bars. Learn the melody, and I chose that one because the roots of the chord, this is the melody, this is the root. It moves in parallel motion. It's easy to hear. You hear that movement of 2 5s through all of a lot of Western music, American music, gospel music. So, and if you can sing that, boom, bang, boom, bang, boom, bang, boom. I'm doing it fast because I've been doing this for a while, and you can check yourself with a friend by getting them to sing the melody, and if you can hear that, you got it. The melody. I'm trying to do the melody and the roots, and then once you fill in the other, matter of fact. Excuse my arms, I just happen to have it here. Bum bo doo dee, bum doo doo dee, dum doo doo, be bum doo doo, be bum doo doo dee, bum doo doo, be bum doo doo dee, doo 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 doo, but dum dum. Anyway, I play a little bass also, and if you can sing that. Because think about it, you go to the piano and play it like, yeah, you hear it coming from the piano. The piano's making a sound.
That's right.
You have to, if you get your embouchure set in the right mode of resonance, regardless of the instrument you play, and you can play it, but when you can make it come out of the horn, you practice it enough. But when you can sing it accurately and in tune, that means you hear it and you've internalized it. So then you have the framework from which you can improvise. And what I had the classical musicians to do at this trombone workshop in Birmingham, England, years ago. I never played jazz. I said, give me a jazz player, give me somebody that just never played jazz. And they came up. I said, I'm going to teach you this melody. And within 5 minutes, I said, no, you take your horn away from your face, because sometimes you have to trick people into learning.
Yeah.
Once they do this, they hold, well, this is the way I play trombone. No, sing. You have to sing, now sing. You don't have to think about the positions. You don't have to think about the chord changes. You don't even have to think about, you know, you may have to think about the range. But now I'll say, don't sing it. I'll sing something, and folks will sing. I said, what key we in? Like, I don't know. I said, yeah, you don't know. But did it matter? You heard it. You repeated it. So that's why, and this is why I said sing it first. Because you can learn music before you learn the nuts and bolts like E equals MC squared. Because you take that tune, and this is the last thing I'll say about it, in 8 bars, the first 8 bars, you have 7 different chord changes, but you only have 2 tonalities. You have F minor 7 to B flat minor 7, E flat 7 to A flat major 7 to D flat major 7. That's 5. They're all in the key of A flat, and if you just play notes in the A flat scale, then you get to the G7. And then you're going to the key of C. So you got A flat for 5 bars and C for 2 bars. But if you get caught up in that F minor 7, well, that's that. B flat minor 7, and that. Instead of 5 chords, you have 1 sound.
That's right.
And that's where playing the piano comes in. I'm sorry.
That's right.
I had to say that.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you did. That's the exact approach I take. Take a linear approach to these changes, not a vertical approach. And that is going to make it
That's why they call it. That's why they call you Jekyll. Mm-hmm. That's right. That's why they call you Jekyll. Matter of fact, we didn't talk about it. We didn't really talk about it today. But Mr. Frank got a book called Chops. I'm gonna tell you something. No, don't pick that up unless you've been practicing for it.
Mr. Frank used to practice 6-8 hours a day. That's why it's like that.
I tell you what, then with all I was practicing, I was playing and still put something on it. But that's a really good, comprehensive method. And I used to share that with my students when I was teaching in New York. But it's a very good book and well thought out.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And as is your book, Sing It, Play It. Okay, so I want everybody to know that the documents we talked about, all the things and the recipe and the basic training, they're already posted in the same place that you found the link for this Zoom. Click on it, it takes you to a PDF. Any other documents that Mr. Gordon sends us, we will post in the same place so that you can download them and deal with this, because I guarantee it's going to take more than this amount of time to get it all together. There's one thing I want to say about your approach, Wycliffe. I know you know this, but I need to underscore it. And that is, last year you won the Louis Armstrong Award and the Satchmo Award. And if there were a Diplomat Award, you would have won that too. And what people don't know, or a lot of people don't know, is that long before Louis Armstrong was known for playing the cornet, he used to stand on corners and sing with his friends. So Louis Armstrong in his earlier days considered himself more of a singer than he was a horn player. And all you were doing is taking the legacy of Pops, who I think we can agree is the reason that we're having this conversation. Pops, he's the reason that we call him Pops. He is the father of all of us who say we love this jazz. So we are simply taking what Pops gave us from the very beginning, that example, and applying it to what we're doing right now in 2020. So what Pop taught us 100 years ago is still working today. And Cliff, you are the walking embodiment of the spirit of Louis Armstrong. And I just had to say that because it's true. Thank you so much for coming here, man.
No, thank you all for having me. I hope this is just the first of a few, or first of many, because there's a lot. to discuss, with we didn't really get into it today, but I want to talk about music education, which is why I applaud you or you all for continuing to make sure that this happened. Many camps canceled, concerts canceled, orchestras canceled their season, but you all see the importance of this and saw that it was important enough to make this available to the folks that are here to attend, and more importantly, whoever can be here today, putting it up on the website so they have access to it. A lot of disparities that we have, whether it's in music programs, it's just due to a lack of access. And access to information is what's important. And there's no way we can talk about that in 45 minutes. So we need to do a series and check out Mr. Williams. His series, Stop Time. I'm gonna get into it, get into it myself, because all of those things are important. When you think about it, we went to school to get a music education degree, and jazz was not a part of it. It wasn't required.
No.
It's American music. All over the world. I remember going to Japan when I first went to Japan. I was like, what? Went to Europe. I'm like, what? Come back to the States. I'm like, where the people? Now, we had those that enjoy the jazz festivals, but I mean, when you even think about that, and the jazz festivals, you call it a jazz festival, they putting on the Rolling Stones, and I get it, just call it a festival. But people want to associate with the great culture that has come out of jazz music and benefit from that. But I think it's important that we know those stories, like what Mr. Williams just said. Louis Armstrong started out a singer. He didn't start out a trumpet player. That's what he was doing, and they were imitating. And he says that in the interview. When he was younger, they were imitating the horn players. They didn't have horns. They were poor. So I think it's important to give a framework for which this music was developed and how it came to. And he shared some other very interesting stories. We look at Charlie Parker and we were talking about Bud Powell yesterday. The stories are great. They're great musicians, but I think it's important to learn, and of course I'm going to shut up, but it's important to learn those things, but it's important that we make it available. So I want to say thanks to Clearwater Jazz for, the Clearwater Jazz Holiday Foundation Education and Outreach for doing what you do, doing your part in doing that, because as in the time that we live in, the truth is just a thing of the past. But in order to be, the musicians were coming from, they came out of their experience. It was the truth, what they felt, what they sang about, and how they presented it. And so I think it's important that we learn, that we learn where does music come from, how it came about, and about the lives of these people, and that we do it first and foremost in America, in all the educational institutions. This is great, but this should be, when our kids grow up, go to high school, they're going to go get an education about music that came from our country, that's celebrated all over the world. We're still in that fight. Most of our educational systems are Eurocentric based, and a few colleges and universities have jazz studies programs, but they're not required. But and I'm gonna shut up because it's jazz, it's gospel music. It comes from America.
Right. Well, yep.
Well, look at the internet. You see these bands from all over the world playing the music. I'm like, man, they sound good. Well, they value this.
Yes.
We need to value this. And I'm not necessarily talking about folks on this call, you're here. So it shows your commitment to this educational outreach. But I want to get on the board. I want to get on the train. It's like, let's tell the truth. Let's put it out there, and because it will shape how music will be in the future, and also how our young folks, they're going to be ones carrying this torch. I'm getting old now. Not really, but you know what I mean? So, and it's important that we learn this and that we come from a place of being informed about the truth and the stories behind these musicians. So anyway, I'm done. My bad. I got off. I tried to stay away from it. I couldn't do it.
So, sometimes the preacher get the spirit and he can't stop preaching. So go ahead and do it, bro. I'm all right with you, okay?
Yes, indeed.
All right, man. It's been beautiful. I love you, okay?
Yeah, I love you too. Love all of y'all.
I'm going to bring on Steve. He is the brain behind everything we're doing here with this digital virtual world and all these programs. He thinks this stuff up, and I just try to make it work the best I can. So thank you very much for the shout out for the work that all these great people are doing to move this entirety, respect, and understanding of this great music forward. Thank you very much, Cliff. You've been wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh man, oh man. Oh man, oh man. Mr. Gordon, thank you so much for being part of this. I got to tell you, I've been with Frank all afternoon, and he's had a smile on his face from the minute I picked him up until now. And he and I have a lot of fun together and dreaming big about these things, but your words are really meaningful. They mean a lot to us. And we can't tell you how much we appreciate you taking the time and being with us and believing in this program and the things we are doing. It just means the world, and particularly in a challenging year like this with the production of our biggest program service, which is the music festival, of course. We just focus on what we can do every day to keep it going forward. And investing in these programs, being creative and innovative, and putting one foot after the next. So you're part of that now, and we are forever grateful. It was such a great afternoon with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, and I look forward to doing it again. Thank you, everybody.
All right, so on behalf of the Clearwater Jazz Holiday Foundation, everybody participating today or watching in the future, thanks for being a part of this. Stay safe out there. Be well and keep playing. We'll see you all soon.
Hey, take care.